Hello, what is up, everyone? Happy New Year, happy 2023. We're so happy to have you with us on this new episode of Records and Rants, the first episode of 2023, and we got a big episode today, very big. So apparently, Rolling Stone released their top 200 singers list, and there's some controversy behind it. Some people like it, some people don't. There's a lot of weird things that are going on with it. There's people missing from it. So we're gonna get all that today, but I can't do it without my co-host of the show, Dixon. How are you?
Nice, great to be here. Great to be back in 2023. First show of the new year is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, we're starting fresh. We're starting new. I feel invigorated. Honestly, I got a lot of energy pulsing within me.
Good.
You know.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I feel excited about it. Shout out to our new subscriber that joined us after we did our top song of 2022.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's always a good thing. Glad to have you with us on this journey in the new year. So yeah, it'll be it's exciting to see what unfolds. And like you said, this is a big episode.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think we're gonna be pumping out stuff like this. We're gonna be hitting on the album reviews. If you're new to the show, let's run it down really quick. We do album reviews. Dixon has a wealth of music knowledge. Sometimes we dive into certain albums or artists. We do a lot of that. There's a 4-part series we have on Bob Dylan, and we do kind of new stuff like this, like music news. And then sometimes we have a rant at the end of the show, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So hit the subscribe button if you think you'd like that. And again, as Dixon said, thank you to everyone who watches. Really appreciate it.
Yep, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button.
That's right, bro. Smash it. Freaking annihilate.
You want to keep this going, keep this show going, make us very happy, and you get a special shout out on the show, like that guy we talked about his comment last week. You could be featured for possibly hundreds of people to hear. So
possibly dozens or hundreds of people sometimes. No, that's the thing we do too. Like I feel like that's one of the first things we talk about. If someone says something on our show.
Yep.
Because we do get comments, but sometimes we don't. But I love the comments. That's my favorite part. So yeah, if you leave a comment, if someone leaves a comment on this video, whatever video, we'll talk about it. We'll talk to you. So keep that in mind.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting you mentioned this because you brought this up to me. I didn't know because they did this. Rolling Stone had done a 200. They have a list of the greatest of whatever. They have the greatest guitarists, all that kind of stuff. And I believe they did this list a few years ago. Maybe I think this might be the first update they did. One of the first updates they did. And like you mentioned, there's some controversy behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go with what you said, they did release the first one all the way back in 2008, and it was only the top 100 back then.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So this is an updated list, updated version. So I looked through the list and I was surprised, but overall I thought it was pretty fair. I think.
Yeah, looking through it, you see the people on there, and a lot of them, I would say, a lot of them deserve to be on there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to say before we even started is, I don't know if you saw this little footnote that they put in here.
Okay.
But the author said, before you start scrolling, keep in mind that this is the greatest singers list, not greatest voices list.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So, well, I know it's really vague, right? That doesn't even really make any sense. But then they continued on and said, in all cases, what mattered most to us was originality, influence, the depth of an artist's catalog, and the breadth of their musical legacy. Now,
because I think there's one. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. But I think there's one that's like 100 the greatest artists of all time. Like there's they do like little almost niche moments too. I think so. Maybe that's what they're getting at. But anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, but that's what they should have titled this, because the way what they just described there, originality, influence, their catalog, that can't you just say artist? Like when you say singer, you're kind of pinpointing their vocals, right?
Right. Yes, I would think it'd be vocal specific, which I made some screenshots of ones that I thought were interesting.
I can't wait to hear these.
Perspective.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the way that I looked at this, I mean, even if I looked at an artist perspective, I would say, maybe they shouldn't be on there or should be higher or lower, or whatever. But yeah,
Right.
there's some weird things on here. I don't. It feels like the cataloging of all these people, like the criteria is all over the place. It feels like.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. Do you want me to you want to share some of your surprises? Want me to share some of the surprises, then we'll dive into some of the controversy.
Yeah. Let's. Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess
Yeah.
I'll share the one that I saw,
Yeah.
which really kind of surprised me for immediately was Billie
Uh,
Eilish being on the list.
wow, I have that one saved as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I'm not saying that I don't like Billie Eilish's, I guess, beats or music
Right.
that she makes, but
Right.
her voice, I don't know. I don't feel it that way. I
I'm
don't
with
know.
you.
I'm not really feeling it. It feels like she was put on here because she's popular. That's what I get out of it. It's like, oh, we're gonna drive clicks. Oh, put Billie Eilish in there. She'll drive some
Yeah.
engagement. I don't
I
know.
think like isn't her most popular song "Bad Guy" like pretty edited? Like, isn't there some auto tune on there like
Yeah,
pretty noticeably? And so
yeah,
I think once again when it comes to voices and it's singers not voices, I think this is more like a greatest artist because Billie Eilish has um, the vibe and the hair and the baggy clothes and like it's more like an experience as opposed to a
yeah.
vocal thing. I think that's just me.
That no, that's a great way to put it. It's more of an
Yeah.
experience. And I guess when you like chalk it up to originality and things that they highlighted, a
Mm,
few of them in the first place, I feel like, yeah, I could see Billie Eilish being on this list. But as far as
right.
a singer, I don't know about that. But the reason that they put is she has mastered the technical elements that
Right.
comprise her style: controlled slides, delicate vibrato, and breathy texture. I
Yeah, she
I
does have some texture there. I
I,
see the
I guess
texture. I
so.
do. I get the breathy texture.
Mhm.
Um, but every like I just it's just like and this will correlate to what I was going to talk about too. But like I don't see her like standing alone as a singer and it
No.
like having like an impact.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that.
Mm,
I don't see it either. But I
yeah.
mean, I guess I guess it's what they're doing here. But I don't know. I don't see it. I'm not saying that I hate Billie Eilish. I just don't see her on
Right.
this top 200 list.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Absolutely.
So that was your first one too. You said.
Well, my first one was actually 199.
Oh right. Okay. Let's hear about
uh,
that.
so Glenn Danzig he was the front man of the Misfits.
Yeah.
And he does have a really unique voice. And I guess I see that. And now that the more I think about it, I guess I do see it. But once again, from an artist perspective, I mean, he launched a whole career just by selling T-shirts. I mean, you always see somebody with a Misfit T-shirt on that probably has no idea what
Yes.
the Misfits are all about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I guess I kind of get it after I thought about it because he does have a pretty interesting voice. But if we're going with Danzig, if you're talking that in voices and singers, I think the guy from Tool, Maynard.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
his last name. I think Maynard should be on this list if you're going with Danzig. I think he took Danzig's shtick to the next level and kind of did it, a little bit better than Danzig.
Did he even make it on? I don't think he made it on the list, right?
No,
Because I
no,
mean,
I
it's pretty
yeah,
extensive. I didn't remember seeing him. Okay, so he did not make
yeah,
it. Yeah,
did not make the list.
I would definitely, and that's another guy I could appreciate his talent, and I'm not really a fan of Tool, but
Right.
I would rather him on here than Glenn Danzig. I guess is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I think he should take that 199 spot instead of him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Billie Eilish 198, which we talked about, like you
Hmm.
said. Lana Del Rey was at 175. I thought she should have been a little bit higher. I think Lana Del Rey stands alone as a voice. And everybody got on her about that video games SNL performance. Like I think like in 2011, like it was weird. But like that's Lana Del Rey's thing. Like I think she's a powerful artist and a powerful singer. So I think she should have been a little bit higher than
I,
175. That's my take
I
on it.
totally agree. I think Lana Del Rey
Yeah.
has a beautiful voice. I know she's still
Yeah.
popular. Has she released anything lately? I don't think so. But
I used to follow her career pretty well. I went to see her at a concert on a college campus that was a completely dry show. So
Oh boy.
I really actually had an opportunity to listen to her perform, and it was pretty good.
Oh,
Uh,
experiencing a concert instead of being blacked out drunk.
yeah, what a
Yeah,
concept.
well, that's weird. I never heard of that.
And then right above her is Buddy Holly at 174, which I think that's fair. Um, I think a little bit. Once again, if we're going by singer, okay, that spot probably makes sense. Artist wise, I mean, without Buddy Holly, you don't have the Rolling Stones, you don't have the Beatles, you don't have anybody else doing their thing. So maybe that's probably fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now here's your boy too at 170. Now I'm sorry, I really don't have that many. We're only on the 170s. So I really don't have that many.
Yeah, oh, there's my boy, Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton. I think Chris Stapleton is pretty overrated in every
Really?
aspect. I think everybody was all over him with that Tennessee Whiskey, that damn song you heard everywhere you went for like 3 years.
Yeah.
I think he sounds like a lot of country guys, alternative country guys, maybe not so much mainstream. I think he's a powerful voice. And when you put him up against somebody like Luke Bryan, yeah, there's definitely an advantage there.
Oh, 100%.
But, yeah, I don't know if I see it at 170 when you have people like Lana Del Rey at 175, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I could totally agree with that. I don't see Chris Stapleton coming above Lana Del Rey. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. That it's kind of insulting to LDR, as some people call her.
Yes.
Kind of insulting to her to be that low in the first place and to also be below Chris Stapleton. I totally agree with you on that. I think Chris Stapleton does have kind of like a generic, like you said, like that alternative country voice that everyone has now.
Yeah. I think it's I don't know. I think he's misplaced there. I think, and the thing is our next pick at 166, Morrissey. I think that's going to be our next deep dive, because I don't know if you listened to the Smiths all that much in your life. Have you?
I have not.
The Smiths will be a good deep. It's not that much of a deep dive. I think they only have 4 albums, but Morrissey is an interesting character. Morrissey, you go to see Morrissey, it's like this religious experience. There's like ladies throwing flowers up on the stage, and they're crying, and it's
really
he refused. He refused to play at Madison Square Garden because he's like a militant vegan.
Oh,
and
wow.
They wouldn't take hot dogs off the menu or something. They have an album, Meat is Murder. Like they're interested. It's an interesting crew, and they've got a spurt recently with the hipster crowd. They were in that. Another friend of the show, Zoe Deschanel. Her movie 500 Days of Summer. They were featured heavily in that film.
Oh, okay, yeah. I love that movie. By the way, that's like
I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, no.
It's actually a fantastic movie. It's really good. But But yeah, I do remember some of the songs from there. But yeah, I don't know much about them at all.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a fun deep dive to do. It'd be interesting.
Pretty short career. Morrissey's had really interesting solo career. He got into trouble recently because he was kind of like a Brexit guy. So he'd be interesting to talk about. And also expose you to some new stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I love getting exposed to new things.
you love exposures.
Yeah, no, I do. That's my favorite.
148, Levon Helm. I thought that was well placed. Now, Levon Helm was the drummer of the band. And if people harken back to our 4-part series on Bob Dylan, it was Bob Dylan and the band.
Yes.
And the band went off and they created their own career in music. Levon Helm has a really gravelly voice. It's definitely rough. You've definitely heard some of their stuff from the 70s. They've been around. They have some hits. So that was pretty good, I thought. And these are just quick mentions that I want to go through.
Yeah.
144, Darlene Love. I rated her song as the number 1 greatest Christmas song of all time on our show from a few weeks ago. So check that episode out.
I remember that was a great episode, by the way. Yeah, guys, you should check that out if you're still listening right now.
One of my favorite episodes. One of my favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Young. We talked about him last year because he had a kind of a thing with Spotify at 133. I like this placement. I like to see him a little bit higher because from a singer's perspective, I wouldn't say all that polished, all that technically proficient, but unique, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could definitely say unique.
This is one that surprised me too, and I want to get your take on this. At 110, you have The Weeknd.
I saw that.
What do you think about that?
Okay, this this is a tough one for me because
Right.
I haven't heard him sing like kind of like a cappella or just like his voice alone. It sounds
Uh,
like he has a good voice. I know how much you could do with voicing and things like that. But
right.
even to go more to that, I don't know if I'm a fan of the weekend to begin
Hmm.
with. Um,
I don't think so either. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan either.
yeah, you know, if I had to say based on what I hear, I would say he deserves a spot in here. I don't know if I'd put him this high though.
Right.
I mean, you're coming in like uh, over half of the singers in here.
Right.
I don't know. I just don't feel it. But the weekend he does have a huge influence. I think his song oh man, I'm blanking on the song right now, but it was the most streamed song in 2022 on Spotify,
Really.
which is wild
Really.
to me. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Um
That is amazing.
oh man, I can't Blinding Lights, I think that's one of
Oh
his
yeah,
songs, right?
Blinding Lights, one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
everything
number
is with
one
light.
song. I know.
Yeah.
What is it?
What is this?
But that's one of those songs. It's like, okay, I've heard it. It's like something I've heard a million times, kind of thing. I don't know if it's just because it's played so much on the radio.
Hmm.
I don't really enjoy the generic kind of pop music. I'm not trying to sound pretentious or anything, but
Yeah, I'm with you.
it's just like, yeah, okay, it's a good song, but then you hear it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Um,
You're not gonna throw it in. You're not like, oh, I gotta get this. I gotta listen to this. You hear it in the background. It's
yeah,
just kind of it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it like ruins it for me. So yeah, I think. Do I think the weekend belongs on this list? Probably, but over, you know, at the 50% mark, I don't think so.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'll go a little bit lower. I forgot to mention this. Robert Johnson at 124. Have you ever listened to anything by Robert Johnson?
I have not.
So Mississippi Delta Blues, the Cream song Crossroads. You heard that song? I went down to the crossroads, try to catch a ride. Anybody that ever was into music when they were like 16 years old, try to play that song on guitar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, I know the crossroads. Yeah,
So the Crossroads is about Robert Johnson because he was such a talented guitar player because he's in the Mississippi Delta with basically completely dirt poor. In reality, nobody to teach him guitar, nobody to teach him how to sing, nobody to get him turned on to music. The legend goes that Robert Johnson went down to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil to learn how to play guitar.
that's awesome. That's a badass
Uh,
story.
it is, yeah, it's pretty cool. So I,
Yeah.
I think, and so if you listen to his recordings, they're so rough. They're such rough recordings. Um, but definitely, I mean, Robert Johnson, with once again, he's another one of these guys. There's no Eric Clapton. There's no Next Generation because all these guys heard this and like, what the hell did this guy do 50 years ago when you had no technology, you had no uh, contemporaries to show you things. You know, what I mean, he was kind of doing his thing on his own, so that was pretty interesting. I thought.
Yeah, that's you know, that's that when you find something like that, I feel like that's incredible. When you are like the pioneer of a new kind of
Hmm.
genre or sound or something like that, I think that's super respectable.
Yep. 103 Leonard Cohen. Love this placement because Leonard Cohen is once again has a really kind of a deep, deep voice. Um, he's the one he wrote the song Hallelujah, which has been covered by everybody known to man.
Yeah, yes,
Um,
of course.
I I think that makes sense. Maybe from an artist perspective, a little bit higher singer perspective. I think that kind of makes sense. But then right above Leonard Cohen at
Uh
102.
yeah, this is one of my marks too. This is one of my notes. We all know where we're getting at.
How did I know that? Because I'm like, I have to. I'm like, I knew it.
Yep.
Your girl T Swift at 102.
My girl.
What are your thoughts?
I okay. I'm gonna tell you this. I was listening to some of our contemporaries on YouTube right before before we got on, and a lot of people love this placement. They say that she's one of
Really?
the best singers of our
Really?
generation. Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. And then they say without a doubt, this one guy actually, I can't remember the name of the channel, but he said without a doubt she is the best writer of our generation, which
Really?
I think you're way stepping way overboard.
Wow.
I know.
Oh my
I thought
gosh.
that was shocking, and I think Lana Del Rey should be in this spot, and Taylor Swift should probably be down by Billie Eilish. That's
Yeah.
what I think. If I had to place him just like you asked me right off the bat, that's what I would say right there. I
Hmm.
I don't like this placement at all.
Yeah, I think that's pretty generous. Once again, from an artist perspective, maybe a little bit different. But if we're going
Sure.
by singers, I've never thought, wow, this is that Taylor Swift can really sing. I don't think I've ever heard that.
No,
I don't think I've ever.
no,
Yeah, like I
no.
don't think it's like I don't know.
I never have. And
Hmm.
I mean, I obviously listen to a bunch of her music because it's on the radio constantly. I mean, she's been popular now for years and years. But
Right.
like you said, I've never listened and said, wow, look at that range. Oh my God, wow, I can't believe she hit that note. Wow, she's holding that note." Like,
Right.
never, never crossed my mind. I'm not saying
Right.
that I'm not saying that I don't like some of her songs. Yeah, some of her songs are catchy, but
Hmm.
all these people giving her all this praise, I don't know. I don't see it. I'm probably gonna get attacked by a
Yeah.
bunch of T Swift fans, and I'm sorry you
Yeah.
feel that way,
The
but
Swifties are going to go
yeah,
after you big time.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, I'd have
sorry.
to agree with you. I don't see it as a singer. I don't see it. And maybe you'll agree on this next one. I don't know if I see this as a really of a singer as well. Just above Taylor Swift at 97 is Usher.
Yeah, I know. It's
The Usher.
that I don't get it. And I see Taylor Swift as more of a product, and just kind of
Right,
like
right,
how,
right, right,
yeah,
right.
it's more of a
Mhm.
product, and I guess I kind of could see Usher that way too. But I don't.
Yes.
I've
I think
heard.
that goes for Billie Eilish too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I've heard
Mhm.
Usher sing live, and it's not
Mhm.
that great. It's not that
But
good.
I love that we're tearing this apart.
I
It's
know
like,
we're
oh yeah.
you're like we know everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the worst vocal delivery I've ever heard. The cadence completely
Yeah.
off. It's like, but no, I'm with you. I don't know if I see it. This is the same Usher that was in the club with his homies with little
Yeah,
John,
I
little
get.
John.
Yeah, with the little. I guess so, and I guess he had the pipes to get to number 97.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
for the love of God, Rolling Stone, you could have just made this top 200 artist. Like,
Yeah.
then we could have had some room to talk. Even
I wonder
looking
if they're
at it
gonna
from an
update that.
artist,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe they will. But even
Uh,
looking at it from an artist perspective, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but even looking at it from an
no,
artist
yeah.
perspective, I don't. Should Usher be 97? I don't think so. But
I don't see it. And what's
uh,
amazing to me is that just above it, 94 is Toots Hibbert, and Toots Hibbert was in a band, Toots and the Maytals, and they were like I think they were like the original reggae band, like the guys that started like reggae.
oh, it's awesome.
And yeah, and it's like I don't know from a singer perspective either if it's like if he's that impressive. An artist perspective definitely, but I want to make mention of him because the bar you and I used to frequent back in the day, I would always play Toots and the Maytals on the jukebox.
Yeah,
And
I remember this. Yeah.
and my buddy was into it too, and he would always joke like, "Oh, I wonder if they're getting like royalty checks. Like, you hope it's coming from like that exact location. Like, oh man,
Oh
another
my
5 cents
god.
this month." We're probably the only people
Oh, that's
playing
so
in the
good.
United States. You know,
Oh my god, that's so good. Oh, another 5 cents. Yeah, you're the one person in the Western Hemisphere that's playing.
and
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
absolutely. And then they're right above him, which I don't think this makes sense when you compare the person I'm going to talk about in the top 10. 93 is Stevie Nicks.
Yes.
And I think that Stevie Nicks, from a vocal perspective, from a singer perspective, is much more impressive than number 93. That's just me. I mean, Fleetwood Mac has been
Yeah.
having a moment the last couple of years. You know, all the white ladies are all into to Fleetwood Mac and the
For some
clothes
reason.
and this vibe. Um, so I just don't know. I think she's deserves a higher spot than 93.
Yeah, I think Stevie Nicks, when you classify it as singer wise, she's got the pipes. I think she's fantastic. And
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think Fleetwood Mac is popular still for a reason. There's a reason for
Right,
that, and I
right,
think Stevie Nicks
right,
is a huge driving force behind that.
right.
Um, yeah, I 93 again. I don't
Mm,
understand it.
yep. If we jump up to the 70s, 71, Roy Orbison. Maybe a fair placement. I think his falsetto is probably the greatest of all time. And I think that without Roy Orbison, once again, you don't have all those contemporaries that became bigger than Roy Orbison. But
Hmm.
his vocal delivery, I think, is a little bit higher than 71.
Yeah,
And If you jump up to 57, big fan of the show, friend of the show, who we've
I saw this.
depth dived on was Brian Wilson. Brian
uh,
Wilson at 57. And it's interesting to me because Brian Wilson once again has also a really good falsetto. He was really influenced by the 50s arrangements and things like that. But Brian Wilson's voice alone, without the Beach Boys, to me, doesn't necessarily stand out on its own. That's coming from me, from a diehard, from a nut.
y-
I understand the vocal, the texture, if you will, the arrangement, the layering that he does with his voice, but together they're one package, and I don't know if it stands on its own.
yeah, that's. I wanted to ask your opinion on that, so I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask you if you
Yeah,
had to really look at this from a like a very critical aspect.
yeah.
Would you put him this high? I mean, I know he's a great artist, but like, would you put him at this level, or would you say maybe he's like you said, maybe he's just
Man,
part of a whole package?
if we're considering singers, singers,
Hmm.
I think that's a pretty generous. I think it's a pretty generous placement at 57.
Okay.
I mean, I think it makes sense because I think artist wise, I think you have to consider Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. I know they're in the top 10 of Rolling Stone, but I think you have to consider them in the top 10 of all time. Regardless of location, of origin, whatever you want to consider. I think you have to put them in the top 10. You have to. I think objectively.
Yeah.
Um, so I think Brian Wilson as a singer at 57 maybe does make some sense, but I think that's pretty generous placement considering some of the people we just mentioned that were pretty lower on the
Yeah.
pretty much lower
Yeah.
on the list.
I get what you're saying.
Now, these are the last four I'm going to talk about, and you're going to love them.
All right, let's hear it.
Number 19, Frank Sinatra. I think that makes total sense, but I'm interested, and I think if you have Frank Sinatra on the list, to not have any of his contemporaries like Dean Martin or Bing Crosby, or any of these guys on the list is kind of weird to have him this
Yeah.
high and not include anybody really kind of like pre 1950. Um, but I think this makes sense. Absolutely, I think it makes sense because old Blue Eyes really could croon it out.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think he's a fantastic vocalist. But even past it, if you look at it from the artist perspective, I think he has a lot going
Right.
on there too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sinatra and those guys, the Rat Pack, were a whole vibe back in the day.
Hmm.
So once again, maybe more of an artist. Maybe all those guys fit in that artist category, but this seemed weird to me that you don't have anybody else from his era,
Yeah.
his kind of thing in the list as well. Um, Number 17, Elvis Presley. Also, we
Yep.
did a pretty good rundown on him. So check those episodes out. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, Dixon, you did a fantastic breakdown on him, and yeah, Elvis Presley being up this high, totally 100% makes sense.
Makes sense. I think from an artist perspective, I think he has to crack at least the top 20, so that makes sense as
Yeah.
well. I don't know about maybe the top 15. I don't know about top 10. There's a lot. I have to really think about that list.
Yeah, I
But
would I would say I
yeah,
wouldn't. He shouldn't be lower than 20
yeah,
though. If
yeah.
you were ranking it based on that, I don't think he should be lower than
Right,
20 or
right,
25 at the lowest maybe.
right. Oh man, here we go. Number 15, your favorite singer, possibly of all time,
Yes.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, I really wanted to talk about this one.
All right, good. I'm glad.
um okay. I'm gonna say this, and Rolling Stone actually hit on this in the very
Yes,
like one of the first paragraphs.
right.
They said a voice can be gorgeous, like blah blah blah, rugged like that, understandable, okay, or bracing like Bob Dylan's. But in the end, the singers
Yeah.
behind it are here for one reason: they can remake the world just by opening their mouths.
Wow. Boy, that's boy, if there was ever a fair assessment on number 15 from Bob Dylan, that's like spot on, I think.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think he's got a range as far as how his voice sounds. I
Right.
guess I could say and I'm not saying he's bad by any means.
Mm.
Um,
It wasn't your favorite. And it's kind of an acquired taste. Right.
yeah, definitely. Would you say he belongs at number 15 here?
Yes, 100%. 15 or above. I
Oh
think
wow. Okay.
because if we're going by, once again, a voice doesn't have to be beautiful. The
Yeah.
the range, the um modification is the word, but to be able to modify your voice based on how you want it to sound and to fit into what your current MO is that day, I think that's pretty impressive. And that's kind of what Bob Dylan did. He went from this real high pitched, really, really making a point, Woody Guthrie kind of deal in the early days, and then has evolved, which I think is some biology at play there, but like to this real gravelly, like weathered vocals of modern day. I think his considering all that, I think it totally makes sense. I actually have to send you a video. There's a guy who does a pretty good impression. He's like, I think he was on Jimmy Fallon, but he does like through the years, and his Rolling Thunder review, Bob Dylan is the best of all time, because he's just yelling. He's just like pretty much yelling.
Yeah,
yelling, but like he has like the same. He has like that gravel, but it's like a yelling gravel, which I think is pretty hard to do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Dylan certainly has probably one of the most unique voices and different voices that I've heard out of a vocalist or singer in a long time.
Absolutely.
Now I saw a comment on the on this one video, not to fire you up or anything, but I just I thought okay, so this one guy's comments on the YouTube video that was discussing this exact list, and he said Lou Reed, Leonard Cohen, and Bob Dylan made it on this abominable list. Listing these men in a great singers of all time list makes it just as much sense as placing them in a greatest guitar player of all time list. So that guy's just kind of being an asshole, but I don't know if I'd agree with him on that. I think there's more to it than that. I think this guy was just upset. He probably just doesn't like Bob Dylan, and he just had to throw some shade out there.
I think the perspective, when you consider that, it's pretty limited, because they said it's not meant to be that this is because there's plenty of singers out there that sing at sporting events the national anthem, and you see, and they're gonna belt it out of the park, but maybe it's just kind of like white noise. Lou Reed is basically, if you listen to early Velvet Underground, Lou Reed is kind of doing his best Bob Dylan impression. I think I might get some hate for that, but I think he's doing his best Bob Dylan impression on the Velvet Underground.
Sure.
And he's got a kind of like a gravel weather thing too. Leonard Cohen is a poet, and Leonard Cohen is has a way of delivering.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, he opens his mouth, and to even consider writing a song like Hallelujah, aside from his other catalog, I just can't even imagine how your brain works. And I get it. It's not technically proficient. It's not going to be Whitney Houston level, but it's there, And Bob Dylan's the same way.
Yeah, sure. It's not all about the technicals, guys. Is what we're saying. Yeah, it doesn't have to be technically proficient, because you know what, Dick. So I think you just encapsulated the whole entire spirit behind this list. Is that you could go down probably on the street and find someone who has a fantastic, beautiful voice, right?
Right.
But it depends on what they do with that, how they mold it, their style, things like that. Mm-hmm. That really captivates people to listen to these guys that are on this list. Because if you're just singing and I could hit these notes, okay, yeah, that's great, but can you design art with it? I guess is what I'm saying.
Right, have an impact. Yeah,
yes,
right, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the only surprise I had, which I'm kind of struggling with this, in the top 10, you have Beyonce at number 8.
Yeah.
I'm kind of struggling with this.
I am too, and here, I'll just tell you really quick from what I think about it. I obviously she has a great voice,
right,
a fantastic career. I don't know if I would put her this high up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know.
From an artist perspective, once again, artist product perspective, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know about. I don't know if I've ever thought, wow, Beyonce can really sing. Once again, just like T Swift. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I feel that or I see that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I obviously listen to a bunch of her music because it's popular. It's on radio stations.
There.
It's there. Yep. It's just there. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know, and I could be just being ignorant here, and I just haven't heard her entire range. But I don't know. Do I think she should be on this list? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I just don't know if it should be that high. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to offend anyone. I'm
Yeah, I'm
glad
with you.
she's on the list, but yeah, I don't know. Top 10. That's a tough sell for me.
Me too, because you have these fans that are absolutely think that Beyonce is the greatest thing to ever happen ever.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the same Beyonce that was in Gold Member, Austin Powers Gold Member. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can we think back to that for God's sakes?
Yeah, like, I don't see her. I don't see her as a impactful singer, as
No.
a standalone singer. I'm just going by singing. That's just me. You know.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with that assessment. Yeah, I don't know if it's as impactful. But I don't know.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Um,
But yeah,
yeah, exactly. What do we know?
yeah,
So, and I think this might give some perspective to the controversy you were telling me about. That if you have Beyonce, how could you not have your girl Celine Dion
yeah.
on the list,
That
right?
that is shocking, and that's probably the biggest news out of
Mm,
this entire list. Of course, you're going to have your criticisms. Oh, I think this person should be higher. I think this person should be lower. But it's
right.
it's more so the people that they omitted, and Celine Dion not being on this list is like I'm I don't know. I'm pretty shocked about that, especially seeing who
That's
else is on
huge.
this list. Like I could
Yeah.
easily replace some of these people on here with Celine Dion. So I do you.
Sure.
Let me ask you this: do you think this was an oversight? Do you think they just were making this
I
list and
don't
she just
know.
slipped through the cracks? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if Rolling Stone has like made a response yet.
I don't know. I mean, like maybe it was, but I will say this: Celine Dion is she's kind of annoying. I mean, with
Oh
that
yeah,
Titanic song and the Titanic soundtrack. I mean, like, but once again, we're not talking about do we like these people? We're saying
yeah.
is should she be on the list? And I think objectively, I think you have to include her on the list.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
Regardless of what you think about her,
yeah,
she has to be on the list. And I'm looking through their Twitter right now because I figure if anything gets released, it would be on their Twitter, and it looks like they
right.
post something about once every second. But I am not seeing anything on
Wow.
here regarding Celine Dion, which I mean, I guess I could see them not making a response, but that's where
Yeah,
we're at with that.
that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting to me that they neglected to include her. And I think another oversight that I think I'm surprised about, really surprised about, if once considering the what this list is looking at and who else is on the list, is that Barry White wasn't on the list. I mean, Barry White, the king of soul, that love making music, if you will, with
Hmm.
that deep gravelly teddy bear voice to not be on this list, I think that's pretty. That's a major oversight as well. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just yeah, it's another one. It's just how is this an oversight? I
Yeah.
guess. Um,
And I read an interesting comment too, and some people that they threw out that weren't on the list was Simon or Garfunkel, or Simon and Garfunkel together. And
oh my
then
God, yeah. That's another
yeah,
one right there. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, let's read this comment here. Is this website I never heard of, and then the other one they included was they exclude it, but this guy includes is the Tom Waits. And if you're going along with Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Lou Reed, like I think you have to throw Tom Waits in there because Tom Waits is kind of the modern day version of those guys with that real raspy, borderline yelling voice. He wasn't on the list either. So there's something there. I think.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if at some point they just said like, "Oh, well, we got this person that's kind of similar. We're just going to omit the other person," kind of thing. But
Right.
I,
Right.
I, I don't
No, I'm
know.
with you.
Yeah,
If you got to figure if they're going to include one, you got to include okay, maybe this is kind of the deal. They're the same plane.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
I mean that makes sense that you would include them, but I don't know. Maybe Rolling Stone thought different, but yeah, Celine Dion fans especially are not happy about this. It's
I think she like sells. I think she's like has something going on now that she can't perform. But I feel like she used to sell out Vegas like every night for years. Like she's got fans too. I think you know.
yeah. Yeah, no,
Interesting.
absolutely. I'm reading through the I'm reading through the Twitter comments, and they're
Huh.
pretty hilarious. Uh, Jamie Lambert said, "Not including Celine Dion is borderline treasonous."
Wow. Okay. All right. Pretty aggressive. I like it, but I can see where she's coming from.
Yeah, another person leaving her off your top 200 of all time has to be an honest and regrettable mistake because doing it intentionally is criminal. Please fix
Yeah.
this.
Especially when you have Whitney Houston at number two. And I feel like those two artists were like were contemporaries. You know, they kind of did their own thing, but like very much in the similar, time frame and had the similar platforms. I think it's not putting her on the list is definitely a big time problem.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure they're going to come out with a response to this, maybe, possibly at some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this was an oversight. That if I had to guess, I'm going to
Okay.
say it was an
Okay.
oversight, and that's what I think.
Okay.
What do you
Wow, that's a
think?
pretty big oversight.
Well, yeah, I know. I would,
Yeah.
I would.
You're probably right. I mean, at this point, when you have 200 people, and like, how the heck do you choose? But I think, like I said, I think it's pretty comprehensive. The list itself, I think it's pretty comprehensive. I think it's fair, with some mistakes, but I guess I could see it being an oversight because how often do you think about Celine Dion as terms of like, oh wow, Celine Dion, great artist, great singer? I don't know.
Yeah, no, seriously. Then that's a good point because someone else commented that okay, Celine Dion might not be as relevant as Billie Eilish or whoever other pops Taylor Swift,
Right.
but she deserves to be in there. I mean, if there's a team of people looking at this, I can't imagine that every single person looking at it who works at Rolling Stone could have overlooked her. But I mean, I
Yeah.
guess at the end of the day, it is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I as far as the whole outrage goes, I guess I would side with the people who are fans of Miss Dion.
Yeah, you got to wonder if this is too. If this was like they did this on purpose to like get people talking about the list because Rolling Stone really hasn't been
Oh,
all that relevant in the last like I don't know 10 years. Um,
wow.
Rolling Stone was the publication of record, and everybody went to Rolling Stone, and then just kind of like I don't know, just did like goofy stuff.
Oh my God, Dixon, that's such a good point.
Maybe that was it. Maybe just to drive the idea because like, these lists, I love that they're objective because they're definitely objective. But Rolling
Yeah.
Stone has a really a history of being very selective. Like I don't know if he's still the publisher, but the owner, publisher, founder of Rolling Stone, Jan Wenner, he or Rolling Stone own the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Hmm.
So there's been many instances through the years of like artists being overlooked and based on the fact that if you're going to let this guy in, why aren't you letting this person in too?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's part of their mo as well. So it's interesting to consider that too. But yeah, I think that might be has something to do with it.
Yeah, that actually does make some sense. Um, oh,
Interesting stuff.
just really quick. I uh, before we finish up with this, there are. It looks like there's probably a dozen or so people that contributed to this list. Definitely more than a dozen. I'd say
Huh.
probably 20 people that contributed to this.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
At that point, I would say that there can't. There's probably no way that it was an oversight. They just didn't include her for one reason or another. And like you said, it could be to generate clicks and outrage and views.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I
Yeah.
that might be it. But who
Well,
knows?
I
We'll
mean,
see.
yeah, it's interesting. That's definitely an interesting thing, and I think it's worth discussing. But so that's your updated 200 greatest singers of all time. They're not voices; they're singers.
Yeah, yeah, not voices, the
Just to
singers.
clear that up.
Yeah, just if Rolling Stone didn't make it, vague enough, they we're clearing it up for you.
Great. Well, I mean, definitely enjoyed looking over it, and
Yeah, no, that was fun. That was a good
yeah, I
time.
think that was a pretty good discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what we're doing next episode. We don't even know yet. We do this on the fly.
This is a week by week deal. We talk about a BTS, but we don't talk about a BTS. If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
We save our juice for you all.
we do. Really get all juiced up and then just
And then
uh,
it translates. So yeah, so
yeah.
if you like what you hear, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. And I think we actually have a rant this week.
Oh, what's our rant?
Um, well, it's interesting because I think this goes along with our episode last week when we were talking about getting back into the gym and trying to better ourselves and those kinds of things. And there was an article I came across from Time Magazine,
Oh,
another publication,
yes.
another publication that I think is kind of not really all that relevant lately. Um, and this is actually it's actually like kind of like an interview about a book, but the headline: "The White Supremacist Origins of Exercise and Six Other Surprising Facts About the History of U.S. Physical Fitness."
I can't
And
believe
I'm
that.
not, yes, and I think now I understand there's some issues with physical fitness, like the president. Did you ever do that presidential fitness test in grade school?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
God, what an awful thing to do, and to make a children go through. I mean, I dread it that day, or that those
That
series of days.
that is bizarre because you
Yeah,
got ranked on that, didn't you? And then you were
yeah, there
like
was a
put into
rank.
yeah, you're like put into a class. That is some like dystopian like communist kind of
It
stuff.
seriously is. Yeah.
It's like, oh, we gotta breed our children to be stronger. Your children's not strong enough, so let's you gotta it's like an
Yes.
outing a young kid like that in front of everyone. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
do they not understand like bullying? And I'm not saying that it happened to you, but I'm sure so many
No.
kids
Right.
got bullied over this kind of thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Absolutely.
you failed the presidential fitness test. Like, wow,
Yeah.
what a
Right.
loser.
So that's.
I mean, my
I don't think
God.
it's necessarily white supremacist, but definitely I have an issue with that whole thing.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah, absolutely.
but this it seems like it's so this article they're talking to the author of this book, Fit Nation: The Gains and Pains of America's Exercise Obsession. This kind of I would describe her as a fringe academic, Natalia Melman, and this is one of the quotes that stood out to me, and I think it's pretty interesting. So she's talking about her research about the history of physical fitness, and basically she's saying that people being fat used to be a good thing, which it was in a certain era of time. If you were portly, it signified that you had more wealth than anybody else. Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
used to be. I mean, is she arguing
yes.
that it's still a good thing? Is she trying to
She's
make that?
arguing that it should be. Well, you see these posts like that. That obesity is a good thing. I think she's
Oh
saying
my
that it should
God.
be at the very least. It shouldn't be vilified. And I'm not saying that you have to be put on blast like you were during the presidential fitness test. But at
Sure.
least think about your heart, and your
Yeah.
your organs and everything else. I mean, we know that that's not healthy. We know that.
Yes.
It's not. Your body is meant to carry around. I had a professor the one time, and she's like, think about like if you're overweight, like a frozen turkey, and if you're 20 pounds overweight, 40 pounds overweight, carrying around two frozen turkeys all the time with you, like it can't be good for you. And it's
That,
true,
yeah, that's a really good way because that really puts it into
Yeah,
perspective when you're carrying that around like or like
right,
a 50-pound bag of soil or something or
right,
whatever. It's like
exactly.
yeah, like that's a lot. And again, going
It
back to
is.
this author, we're talking about two different time periods. Yeah, it was good to be fat back when other people were starving to death when we didn't have enough
Right,
food to
right,
give each other. I mean,
right,
so saying, I mean, trying to compare the two, you're just talking two different timelines. And again, I totally agree with what you said.
right.
Yeah, I would say we shouldn't vilify, but we shouldn't glorify being overweight because
Yes.
it's not. No one likes being overweight. I mean, that's
No.
yeah. Anyway,
And then there's like a lot of these companies that are like, instead of doing the classic um skinny model, they're having plus size models, which I'm all for. Hey, I like a
no,
thick
I
woman the way it
know,
is. You know
I
what I
know
mean?
how you think. I know.
I like a little meat on the old bones. But I mean, to some of the models they have are just beyond. It's not. We're not talking about frame. We're not talking about bone structure. We're talking about like literally just overly overweight, and there's a problem there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. No, could I speak to that really quick?
Yes. Go for it.
I I don't know if I have as much of a problem with that. Now, I'm looking at this from a marketing perspective, and I'm
Right.
saying you have a lot of people. I mean, a lot. I mean,
Right.
what are we like? Isn't America like 50%? But it's probably way more than that. That's overweight or obese
Gotta
or
be.
something.
Yeah. It's got to be.
I'm
Yeah.
saying from a marketing perspective, it makes sense because you're putting clothes on people who are buying your stuff that are probably overweight, and
Right.
they might want to know what they look like, you know, being overweight and in the clothes. That's the only way that I look at that. So I guess it makes sense in that aspect.
I hear
But
you. No, that's definitely a good point.
but yeah, but then there's this whole push that's like, oh, we got to get rid of skinny models. It's like, well, no, there's skinny people out there too.
Yeah,
Don't eliminate them. I don't know. I just think that's
right,
ridiculous.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's so the one I was thought about that I was just completely I thought because I think that this author is making leaps. Like she's like making these connections that I don't necessarily aren't there.
That's what it
And she's
sounds
talking
like.
about the research. Yeah, in the early she's talking about the early 20th century where fitness became like a thing. And this is a quote from the article from her. They're saying white women should start building up their strength because we need more white babies. They're writing during an incredible amount of immigration soon after enslaved people had been emancipated. This is totally part of a white supremacy project. And I don't. Did anybody say you got to get nice and strong so you could have more children? I don't think it's
No.
ever correlated. I don't think it's ever. I never heard that. I've never, regardless of what you think, I've never heard that. I don't think that's the truth. I think you're just making this link. You know?
Yes, and I totally agree with you. It's like because I
Yeah.
read through this pretty quick one day, but
Yeah.
I totally agree. The fact that she's taking something that is like completely out of context and doesn't even
Yeah.
relate to gyms or fitness or how people want to be nowadays, like or how people always wanted to be just to get fit.
Right.
It
Right.
just
Right.
there's no correlation there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's absolutely right. And she even talks
yeah.
about your favorite thing, CrossFit, how it's militant, how
Uh,
it burst
I
onto the
saw
scene after 9/11. You got to get ready for war. I'm like, dude,
this is
yeah, I don't know.
it's just a different form of fitness. I mean, for God's sakes,
Yeah.
CrossFit is just high intensity interval training, which has
Right,
been
right,
around
right,
forever. It's just that they put it
right,
into a class and they sell it to idiots like me who will pay $100 a month to go there. Like
right. Sure,
that's all it
sure.
is. Yeah, it's not
I'm with you.
it's not a military. Oh my God, I don't know. It just
I think the
she's
fact, yeah, I
leaps and
know.
bounds. Yeah.
I think the fact that this stuff is making the mainstream though is kind of concerning because I think if you really want to attack a society, you make things like um, bad food, processed food readily available. You make pornography free and readily available. And they tell you that exercise is kind of not the best thing for you. I think there's kind of things that are adding up that might be a little bit scary when we're looking at where everybody's trying to push us towards, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. I think we have to shift the focus of it is good
Yeah.
to be fit. You should
Hmm.
be fit. You'll feel better. You'll be more healthy. You'll
Right.
have more confidence. It could. I'm not saying this will work for everyone, but if you're
Right.
depressed, working out is a fantastic way to gain more confidence, keep yourself busy,
Definitely.
increase uh, your activity, mental. It's good for you overall.
Right.
I think we should really start to look at that rather than but I think it goes hand in hand with the whole I'm fat and beautiful thing because I think
Yes.
people
Yes.
should feel good about how they look. I think people should be confident, but
Definitely.
at the same time, you could love yourself just by how you look, but I think you should also keep in mind that you are not in your best state, and your best state is being fit, and that I think
Yeah.
that's just the long and short of it.
Yeah. That's the gist. Definitely. No,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Oh man. Well, let's find out. So just be aware. Be aware you're supporting war when you go into that CrossFit gym.
Yeah, no, I know, I gotta think about that. I'm gonna look at it totally differently. I'm gonna gonna be ready for war to go fight Al Qaeda and have Bush just send me over to Afghanistan and Iraq.
there's no big tires in Iraq, so I don't know
Yeah.
why anybody thinks that anybody from CrossFit is remotely prepared to be.
Okay, Gulf Grove Summit. Oh my God, they blocked the entrance to the cave with a giant tire. I got this.
That's pretty good. That's good. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Oh man. What a kook! What a kook she is.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Uh,
So
what are you gonna do?
that's
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, it's all outrage porn, I guess.
It's the truth. Unfortunately, everybody's outraged about
Yeah.
something, including Celine Dion. So here we are.
Yes,
So I guess it comes full circle.
that's right. Oh man. Well, Dixon, that's
Oh.
the bitch of it, you know.
That's a great. That's a great phrase. I
Uh,
love
well, it's gonna be the new catchphrase of the show. I love it.
it.
Guys, we're subscribed now. You'll get a discount on the merch when it comes out
Yes.
with that
Yes.
saying on it.
Yes. We have at least 2 T-shirts keyed up, ready to go. I think.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. So no one steal. We won't. I'm not gonna say anything. People might be trying to steal our merch. So, but
Yeah. Don't
it's
say
gonna
anything.
be great when it comes out.
Awesome. I love it. Looking forward to
Well, all right.
it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week on our next episode. Thanks for watching.
Peace.